Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we have another enthralling dissertation on some arbitrary knife subject. Today, as you can see, we have a lot of knives here with different can openers, and that's the theme. You can see the cans in the background. We're going to be talking about can openers, and it's going to be a really surprising video, kind of a fun video, and there'll be some humorous moments, I think. But at least for me. So if you'd like to check that out and find out, where did these things come from? Why did we need them? And why are they on knives? Go ahead and check out the video. All right, welcome back to the fortified castle. Hi to all my viewers. Welcome back. I really appreciate y'all. All your likes, your shares, your comments. Really, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate that. I enjoy making these videos for you. So, we're going to be talking about let's pick this one right here. We're going to be talking about the can opener. And so if you're 20 years old, you really don't understand the need for these. And that's because, nowadays, if you look at this can, it's got a pop top on it. What an amazing invention for a can. Actually didn't come for a long time. But you may have cans in your cabinet that look like this, and you have to have something to open these. Now, most of these we have some type of rotary can opener, or like I do, I've got an electric can opener. I think most people do nowadays. Really quick and simple to use, but it hasn't always been that way. And so we're going to look back at the history of these, and just real quick, I want to go through and show you each one. This is what I call a spade type can opener. It kind of has a dagger design to it. On the other side, it's sharpened. Not all of these are sharpened on both sides. Sometimes they're only sharpened on one side. Very primitive can opener. I believe this is one of the first can openers that was used. The next is the clam style can opener. You stick this in the can, the sharp end, and you pull up. This acts as a fulcrum or for the lever action. Maintaining a tight grip on the can while you push up, and you just go around and you push up the can. Apparently they had some problems. Sometimes in the 1926, I believe, Remington came out with the two-piece, this is two pieces, the two-piece clam style can opener was supposed to be stronger. Than the original one, and I have seen some of these. This is old. What is this? This is a Schrade Cutlery Company multi-tool, and that's that can opener there. Then a revolution occurred. For almost 100 years, the can opener looked kind of like this right here, and then in 1944, the Army approached Camillus and Imperial. They came down to the headquarters. They said, look, when we use these can openers here, the problem with this can opener is you stick it in your can and you're pulling up. And so the jagged edges of the lid are sticking up. And I've actually been cut by one of those before because we used to open cans back in the day. And so the Army said that was causing infections that were keeping soldiers out of combat. And so they wanted to come up with a different one. Right there in that meeting, a Camillus guy, I forgot his name, but a Camillus guy went over and just sketched this out on a piece of paper and cut off the bottom section here and lengthened the top section. He basically reversed the can opener. And this became known as the Hawkbill can opener. This is really cool because this is one, the Army at the time was switching from the old bone-handled Army-style utility knife to a newer version. This is stainless steel, and they changed to this Hawkbill can opener. And the Hawkbill allows you to push down as you go around. Doesn't sound like a big deal. It's still labor intensive, but what happens is as you push this can opener down, the lid points down, so all the jagged edges go down, and it's a lot user friendly. So it cut down on people getting cut by those lids. This is one from 1951. It incorporates the clamshell and the cap opener on the knife. Here's another one from the 60s, same style. So you have the can opener here and the cap lifter here, both on one blade. Here's another variant of it, which is just an elongated, more elegant form of this style can opener here. That's basically how that worked. Kind of a combination of a Hawkbill and the in the spade type right there. This one, again, this provided the fulcrum so that you could go around and push the lid down. There are other variations to the Hawkbill, especially because it was patented in 1944 to Imperial, so that patent didn't run out until 61, and so companies, instead of copying the Hawkbill, just cut it off. But this is a brand new knife made in Spain, still incorporating that half Hawkbill design. This is a Colonial from the 60s, still incorporating that half Hawkbill design because of the patent. And this knife right here is a new one from Spain, and it's kind of got that same type can opener as a Victorinox. So that's kind of the Victorinox design right there, where it had a little stud on it that you could use as a screwdriver also. So that's kind of where can openers stand today. So to figure out when these things came on knives, which there's no definitive literature that I've found that says can openers appeared on knives on this date and time. There is literature I've read that says they appeared on knives around 1945. That's really not supported by anything. It's probably a best guess based on some other issues. But if you look up in the corner there, you see a really massive can. So in 1772, the Netherlands were producing cans. They were the first ones to do it. And the Dutch Navy was using this type of can up here and putting salmon in it and sardines for extended voyages, right, with their ships. At that time, most of the ships were still sailing ships. And the crazy thing, and the thing I think is humorous about all of this, is the first can opener wasn't invented till 1845. So basically 70 years with this heavy duty can without being able to open it. The first ones were made out of steel, and so people had to use large sharp objects and hammers and beat the crap out of these cans to get them open. And the thing that's humorous about that to me is, imagine being really hungry and wanting to eat, and it's locked in a safe, basically. So there's no way to get to it, right? You got to beat the crap out of it, almost cut yourself. I'm sure a lot of people did, trying to get into these cans just to eat. And so, it was basically, the can was a military invention to extend, food life aboard naval vessels, which could be out for really long periods of time. So by 1845, this cat, I think he was John Gilbert, I think that's what his name was, came up with this knife. It's called I think it was called the lever knife. I'll put it up there. I'll figure it out when I edit this, but I'm pretty sure it's called a lever knife. So this thing, as you can see, was basically, like a handle. You had to poke a hole into the can and then stick this down, and it acted like a lever and a fulcrum, where it's got its name, lever knife. Bear in mind, any handle that has a sharp blade on it is considered a knife, and so that is considered a knife. That evolved to the second picture right here. This is a little more handy, and bear in mind that these things were, maybe 5 inches long, 4 or 5 inches long, so they were able, you could put them in a pocket, and they're a lot smaller than it looks like. But on this second one, notice that it has on it this spay or dagger type. There you go. Has this dagger type blade on it, and so I believe it initially that's used to pierce the can, and then when you look at the other side of this, in this picture right here, you can see both sides. The other side had like a clam style blade. So now you see both of these old style blades on this knife that was called a lever knife. Later in 1855 in England, a guy made a can opener. Most documents that you read will credit this guy to developing the can opener, not John Gilbert, which, he was the first one to develop a can opener. And so, again, that's a long time in between when cans were being used and when cans actually got a can opener. So, basically up to this time, this is what they use to open can openers. And this is a bayonet. And these things this is a long one. They were actually longer than this, but oftentimes, they would drive one of these bayonets into the can using a hammer on the end of it. And that's kind of really crazy to think about. So in 1858, an American invented a can opener. That's the can opener up there. And both of those examples I showed you, they're still not really convenient. You can see from the first example that both of these apparatuses on here were used on first knives. I think this is actually probably the first one used, But in 1860 catalogs, you don't even see can openers on knives. In my Joseph Mappin catalog, or I'm sorry, my Mappin Brothers catalog, and they were kind of like the Abercrombie and Fitch or Lands' End of today. So they had the latest and greatest, and you just don't see it. So I think these things may have been on knives in very limited numbers in the in the mid 1800s, and it wasn't really till after 1860 that they started showing up on knives. And something else occurred around that time in 1860 is cans got an upgrade, and they started using tin. This is actually tin that our cans are made out of. So that's why the English call them tin openers, not can openers, and why they call cans tins, because that's what they originally were. They were tin cans. And so we just abbreviated that and call them cans because we're more practical than the British. Let's face it. So coming up on the 1880s, that's the time we can start to identify can openers on knives, usually on a multi-blade knife. Victorinox had a clam style can opener like this on their 1897 officer's knife. And so from then on, these things appear, once Victorinox mass produced them, everybody else started to doing it as well. And these a lot of people think these are just an indication of an early date for a knife, a pre-1940 knife. You'll hear that a lot on the internet. But this hawkbill really didn't come out till the end of the war, and it was patented. And so that patent didn't expire until 1961. And you see that when you look at other knives, they have some type of variation, of the hawkbill where they cut it off because they were trying to avoid the patent infringement. And you can still see these clam style can openers, up until the 60s, like this right here. You can still see them up to the 60s. This is 1951. Sometimes past the 60s, companies use this. I've seen some fairly recent Japanese knives that use the clam style. So, yeah. So that's what happened with these. And pretty much, though, it's still the hawkbill design, pretty much, that we see on most knives nowadays. We don't really use these. When I grew up, we opened a lot of cans. When I went camping with my dad, we took a can of tuna, we took a can of beans, sometimes corn, but we took cans of things and opened them out there in the field using a can opener. And then around the 50s, freeze-dried food came up. Famously, the MRE is a example of freeze-dried food. And these started coming out in the 1950s in limited quantities, which the freeze-dried process was invented in 1909. Why it took up until the 80s before the military adopted these freeze-dried things. When I went in the Marine Corps, the Marine Corps in 1979, we were still using the old sea rats, which were, they called them sea because they were in cans. And so all the meals and stuff were in cans. That's what they used in Vietnam also. And so Mine, primarily, it was a money issue. It took more money to freeze dried foods, and so they used cans. But in the 80s, we finally got the lightweight MREs. These are really big. Nowadays, you can walk into Bass Pro or pretty much any sporting shop and get small freeze dried food packets that are really good, taste good, and so you don't see cans too often anymore. Um, maybe fruit, but we can freeze dry fruit too. So um, some people may still carry cans of fruit into the field. I still occasionally carry cans into the field, but I also have MREs and free dry food, and so this thing is becoming obsolete. Actually, did a video talking about that. Do we still need a can opener? The comments are kind of interesting on that video. My conclusion is yes. And so where I come down is I look at the multi-tool as a survival tool also. And in a situation where society broke down, your only means of food may be a can. And I know a lot of guys, well, I'll hunt food. Well, I'm a hunter. I can't tell you how many times I've gone out to the woods and, just not been able to get anything. And so that's really going to be true if 300 million Americans are looking for food. And so the quantity of game in the field may diminish pretty quickly. And you may only be able to find cans. And so I think, yeah, I'd like to keep can openers, on a multi-tool just for that purpose. I still use them. A hawkbill you could use for other things. You could use it to loop string. You can use it to scribe. And so they're great scribes across metal or wood. You could scribe marks in them in the field. It makes it a little easier, to use your saw and cut things you need to cut in the field. So that is the thing on can openers. I hope you found it interesting. One thing you'll notice, you don't see it on modern knives, right? These things right here. If you had to open up a can, by the way, and I have done this, you can do it with a knife like this. And so it's a little harder because you don't have the lever, but you drive the knife down in there, and then, you can cut down on the knife. Really the best way, if you don't have a lever, is try to pry up. You can take the knife and put it on the side of the can and cut up and cut the can that way. So I've actually done that in the field. And, in that event where you need to open a can and all you got is a modern folder, you can still open it. Back in the day, they were so strong with steel cans, you'd have a hard time getting into them. All right, I hope you found the video informative. It was kind of fun to make, kind of fun to research. I learned some new things here, especially that John Gilbert. I wasn't aware of him prior to this research, so I learned some things too through this. Hope you have a great week. The week is over. It's Friday. Weekend. I hope you have a great weekend. It's going to be awful cold. A lot of storms moving through. So great time to go out and practice your cold weather skills. We'll see you in the next video.